if you think of Well and Good as they are the ones who care deeply about the overall guest readiness, they're either going to do what needs to be done or they're going to tell me what needs to happen in order to make sure that the guest readiness is actually happening. And we are obsessive over that side of it. Like, we have our last question that our teammates fill out at the end of each one of our work orders is on guest readiness. It says, I certify, and they write their name next to it, and they say, this home is guest ready from all the best of my knowledge, every aspect. And that's not just clean. That means like the batteries are working for the front door, and that means that like the light bulbs are functioning, like everything there is happening. And if they can't say yes to that, if they can't sign their name to that, they say no, and they say why, right? And so it's like, hey, I'm seeing a problem. This needs to be solved before a guest can have a good experience here. And so training our teams to look at overall guest readiness has helped us become that like that group that an operator can lean on the ground to like really look at the comprehensive property.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the STR Investing Podcast. I am your co-host, Mark Lumpkin, and this week we've got a super cool guest, a guy I've known for a long time in the industry, and he's going to bring some operations knowledge to us. I know a lot of people listening to the podcast are individual investors. You guys are buying your second, third, fifth, or first short-term rental, and you're trying to figure out how to make all this work. What are all the moving pieces? And setting it up is hard. Doing it the right way is important, but operating that home for many years to come and going through a lot of guests is key to the success of any short-term rental. And so without further ado, I've got Jonathan Wicks with the owner and founder of Well and Good. Jonathan, thanks for coming on, man. You guys are probably the biggest cleaning company in the entire space, and I know you do so much more than that, but I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes, Mark, man, it's great to be with you. What an introduction that is. You're so right. The operations side is where there's obviously a lot of awareness to. If we do that right, we can have a long, sustainable industry and even individual properties. So yeah, we are the largest cleaning company in the vacation rental space, and part of that is just we are obsessed over it. It is our whole heartbeat of how can we deliver guest-ready homes at scale and give confidence to an industry that really needs it. So really thrilled to be on here.
Yeah, man, excited to have you. I know we've followed you for a long time and love what you guys are doing. Been a big fan of watching you guys grow because, in my opinion, and some people might take offense to this, but it's kind of easy to grow a SaaS-based company. And it's kind of easy to grow a It is not easy to grow an operations business, especially when you're doing it in multiple different markets. You're dealing with the seasonality of short-term rentals, the volatility of guests coming and going, the short check-in, check-out window. And so I'm fascinated to dive into today on how you guys built the industry's largest cleaning company. But before we do that, I'd love to wind it back a little bit and just get to know your story and how you ended up here today. Like, what got you into the short-term rental space, and tell us a little bit about more you and your journey.
Yes, so I have been a business owner since I was 19. I was in college and I started a cleaning company of all things where we were actually doing restaurant cleaning primarily and like the janitorial services for restaurants like Red Robin, Red Lobster, Buffalo Wild Wings. We would go in overnight as students and go clean these restaurants. Instead of them having their staff do that, they would hire us to do it. So I kind of got that like introduction both to entrepreneurship and to the blue collar nature of just the hard work that is required to get to take a gross back of the house of Red Robin and turn it into a beautiful, ready to go for the next day approach. And so I was running that business and I ended up selling that after graduating from college and got into repairs and maintenance for vacant homes. Foreclosed homes were a big thing that were happening around that 2009 period. And so I started a company that was servicing these vacant homes across the Midwest primarily. And so we were doing all the things for a bank that needed, to cut the grass and take care of these homes that were waiting to be sold by the banks that owned them. And so that was about 10 years of my career in that space. And in that time, I bought a home to be a vacation rental. And so I was renting out this home that was on a lake up there in the Wisconsin area outside of Chicago. And so I got to experience vacation rentals for the first time as an owner and like how actually it feels to bring folks in. There were 10 beds in this vacation rental. And so, I was within all the nature of like, okay, so how do we do the laundry here? Like, there's one little machine. How do I do that? Do I hire residential cleaners? And that was kind of a challenge too. And I kept on thinking like there needs to be a company that actually does the servicing side at the hotel level to kind of bring that hotel experience into the homes. And as I started doing research, I found that that didn't exist. And then I'm like, well, wait, my whole background is in blue collar servicing. That's what I've done. And I had exited the companies, and I knew the time was right for me to get into not just the vacation rental space as an owner, but as a true stakeholder of the industry at large, and say there can be efficiency and confidence and excellence in the servicing side. So that's what led me to start Well and Good.
It's awesome, man. We're all wondering, when you guys were cleaning Red Robins, did you get unlimited French fries?
Oh man, the French fries. I still will. The smell of like a Red Robin just makes me happy. You know, I walk in there and I get the seasoning from the Red Robin and the freckled lemonades, unlimited freckled lemonades. Let's go. Shout out Red Robin forever.
Dude, yeah, dude. Get what is it? The buffalo chicken wrap or whatever it was, dude. The South. Yeah. I remember crushing that. We don't have one in where I live in Florida, and so it's been years since I've been to one, but the unlimited fries, man. I could not imagine how many calories of fries you'd eat in one sitting.
You could have a meal that would last you a whole day right there at Red Robin. You go to lunch, you don't need to eat again.
For sure, man. I love that. So when you guys were doing hospitality, because you were doing hotels and large houses and things like that, was that when the light bulb clicked for you and you're like, ooh, the hospitality industry really needs this? Because I would think that residential cleaning homes would not be as consistent as commercial, right? A restaurant needs to be cleaned every night, needs to be deep cleaned once a week, whatever it is. A short-term rental has to be cleaned by someone between checkout and check-in. And so was that like a light bulb that clicked for you and you're like, ooh, this is a niche? Or how did it transition into doing STRs?
I had exited the cleaning space after college from the commercial side, but it is so unique into the sense that those are the same buildings. They're the same thing. With the variance, though, of vacation rentals is one of the reasons why I saw it had not been standardized, right? Like the process hadn't been really thought through very much, because everybody was just kind of doing their own thing. They were piecing it together, right? Think of the laundry, right? They were just telling the cleaners like, hey, if you can wash these linens at the property, that'd be great. And like, trying to just piece it together. And I think that a lot of it had to do with just, this was a pretty emerging industry. This is 2020, and at the time, and vacation rentals have been around, but not nearly to the extent that we know them today. And so I kind of just looked at it and said, as an emerging industry that needs that kind of support, I just looked at the skill set that I had and felt like there was an alignment there.
I love it, man. So where's the first location? Where did you open up the first spot?
That was in Arizona. So I was living in Chicago at the time, and I talked to one operator. I came up with this idea, and I talked to one operator, and that operator was like, can you bring it to Scottsdale? And so we ended up launching in Scottsdale in the middle of the pandemic. August of 2020 we launched, and that operator was property manager with 30 properties, and that became our starting point for it. And so yeah, we kind of just at that point were all about like, we wanted to build this to scale. And so we were very much involved with testing everything, looking at it from all the different angles of like, what is the best way to service a vacation rental? What are the required things that you have to have? And we found it was not just the cleaning, it was the fact that the teams that were doing that cleaning, those professionals that were out there, they were severely under-equipped from the product's perspective. So they did not often have the right linens that they needed. They did not have the right soaps and the paper products. We wonder why guests show up to properties and there's no paper towels. It's like, well, the systems were terrible for that. And there were oftentimes a reliance on inventory closets and things like that within the home, but we didn't know what was in those closets. And so we really realized early on, it's going to take a hub, a centralized facility that has the products in it where the teams can come each morning, get those products, go to the property, know that no matter what they walk into in that property, they have everything they need to be able to make that home guest ready. So that was a big learning on day one, but it all started in Scottsdale.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Did you guys move to Scottsdale?
Yes, I moved there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you weren't doing it remotely. You weren't trying to build all this infrastructure. You were boots on the ground.
Everything about our company is boots on the ground. I think when we start talking about servicing, everybody's like, okay, so are you like a platform company or like a tech company? I'm like, no, we're an actual like servicing company where we have physical locations and we have real employees and like truly we're doing the work. And yes, it was necessary, especially in those early days, for me to be physically there. So I moved from Chicago to Arizona right in the middle of the pandemic.
I love it, man. Good for you guys. I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus, but probably in the last 6 months, I've had more SaaS pitches in my inbox than I have in the last 5 years. All of them are built by Claude. I'm convinced that Claude has built more software tools in the last 6 months than every developer on planet Earth has built in the last 30 years. And it's ridiculous. They're great systems, they're great processes, they're great products. At the end of the day, they're a dime a dozen. In the world of AI and how rapid it's growing, they're a dime a dozen. The real nitty-gritty operations businesses, the people, the plumbers, the cleaners, the contractors, those are the businesses that have value, because everything else is a race to the bottom. It's already at the bottom.
And if there was an easy way for AI to build a platform that could guarantee you operational excellence within vacation rental servicing, man, that would have been done. But the reality is, it's like there are some things that are not able to just be summarized in a quick little thing or built out in a quick build of a tech platform. It takes brick by brick, figuring out what needs to be done, working with humans, right? This is the inherently human side of the business, and it's not for everyone. There are some people who just cannot get into the human side. They don't like managing people. They don't want to worry about that. But undoubtedly, in an industry that is now 25 or more % of U.S. travel, there has to be some companies who are truly in that people side of the business, in the ops world, and that we're one of them.
So talking about the people side of the business, you started off with 30 properties, one client essentially, one property manager. Were you doing all this yourself on day one? Is this something that I couldn't imagine you were? I would imagine that you had to scale up pretty quickly. And so what has your philosophy been on growth and on actually getting good people to do good work? Because that is the hardest part of any service-based business, is good people doing good work.
No question. So just to go back to the early years of 2020, our first customer started a path that we've really emulated as we've gone, which has been, they had some good people. They had employees and cleaning professionals, independent cleaning professionals that were working for their property management company. The issue is those individuals were not being supported in the way that they needed to. They were not being set up for success, right? Like it's not in the property manager's best interest to spend all of their time on personnel development or on ensuring that the right processes are there. The property manager needs to be worried about the owners and the guests, and there's a lot on the property manager's plate. And so we ended at the very start, we absorbed their team, and their team became our first team. And some of those folks even still with us today. But the reality was that there is always going to be a nucleus of great professionals in every area, whether they are referred to us by existing customers or new customers, or they just find us. We found that if we're waving the lighthouse of professionals live here, right? We have a structure that is fundamentally set up to help the cleaning professional be more supported, more successful, and they know that, right? We're not bluffing when we say that. No, it was built so that the cleaning professional can actually not have to sit there and wait for laundry to dry and deal with all the massive nightmares of inventory closets. And there's a lot of reason why cleaning professionals left vacation rentals, because it was so inefficient. There were a lot of folks that were like, I'm not touching Airbnbs because I'm not going to deal with doing 10 different things. I'm a cleaning professional, right? Why are you telling me to do laundry? Why are you telling me to do all these other inventory management, co-hosting, etc.? Cleaning professionals, like any profession, want to be valued as what they bring to the table. And so we have set that up from the start. In a time of all of the shortages, of labor shortages and all that, we have a people-heavy business that has not struggled in recruiting. And that's the real reason, is because when you have a system that is actually set up for those folks, they find you. And it's been amazing to watch the best professionals in every area find well and good and know that okay, here I can actually lean on an organization fully for the way that I do my cleaning and in the vacation rental space.
Yeah, I love that, man. So they find you. So recruiting and adding new people has not been difficult. And you guys, we'll talk more about it a little bit, all the locations you guys have expanded to above and beyond Scottsdale. But how do you keep retention, right? How do you keep people, good people that want to stay around for a long time? You mentioned this business started 5 or 6 years ago, and you've got people from your original crew. So how do you hang on to good people?
Yeah, so I think first we established that not everybody is gonna be in this vocation forever. Not everybody's going to be with our company forever. When you're dealing with entry-level teammates, you have to establish that reality, right? The goal is not for everybody to stay forever. Also, the goal is not for everybody to move into management. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make is trying to make the good cleaner the manager now, because just because they're a good cleaner does not mean they necessarily want to graduate into that. So we start off with a baseline of let's remove expectations of there's this trajectory you must go on. At the same time, you look around the leadership of our company, and it's all people that were in field initially. And so we've seen just this maturity of folks that did just need an opportunity and did just need a little bit of that, like, whoa, I've got all the credentials. I've got experience. I'm a smart person. I'm, as the team player would say, I'm humble, I'm hungry, and smart. And like, if you combine those things, that's where our leadership is. Our partner level positions are all internal hires that came up through the ranks of doing the work in the field. And so we have just like, when someone joins Well and Good, they can see a clear path for them to be like, okay, maybe this is just for a couple of years, or maybe I'm doing this as a filler to another job that I have. But if I decided to make this a career path, I can look at like 10 people in the organization that they have now seen truly a career trajectory happen. And so I think it's just showing it, talking about it. One of our core values is we have a long game approach. And so we tell everybody that comes into our team, we say, yes, we want you to be able to be servicing right now in this busy season, but like, we care about you as your life and you as a human. This is part of your career trajectory. And so therefore, we want you to look at the long game of your career, and whether we're a part of it in a short period or forever, we care about that resume building aspect of what they're doing.
Cool. I love that, man. My grandpa always said all work is honorable. It doesn't matter if you're cleaning the toilet or if you're building a rocket ship, man. It's just good hard work is what makes the world go round, and it's good for all of our souls. So
amen. And you, if you respect that and you openly respect that and talk about how the work that is done to make a bunk bed, right? And like you know, the people that are in leadership know that work because we've done it, and like we've actually can say we're not just theoretically running this company from a boardroom. This is an organization that's run from the ground level, and we know what it's like to be that. Then you can say like, I respect you as a professional so much more, and there's a respect level that comes to us then too from those professionals who are in it. So I completely agree. There used to be jobs that were deemed as like less than jobs, and like, you know, you weren't quite as those days are over. In fact, you can make a case that the most valuable people in the world are the ones who are doing things with their hands, because everything else can be done by a bot.
100%, dude. I could not agree more. Culturally, it started to flip. It hasn't 100% flipped, but yes, there'll be a day in our lifetime that people will be like, "Oh, you're an attorney? Oh, you clean houses for a living? That's so cool. Tell me about that." You know what I mean? Like the whole mindset is shifted, and I think that's cool, man. I want to circle back because there was a lot to unpack that we just talked about, but I want to hyper focus on the delta between the perception of what you need to run a short-term rental, which is that a lot of operators, especially people remote, which is going to be a lot of the people listening to this podcast, a lot of the people who listen to our podcast are individual investors. Like I said, they're buying their second, third, fourth property, and they're doing this remotely. I'm a brain surgeon in California. I'm buying a property in Sevierville, Tennessee. The mindset is, I need a cleaner and I need a handyman. And I hear it all the time. I need two people. I need a cleaner and I need a handyman. But you just talked about how, you know, cleaners don't provide towels and linens. They don't restock operating supplies. And I know this firsthand. My wife just went to one of our properties the other day, and she's like, there's no freaking toilet paper. We have one roll per bathroom, and there's a guest coming and they're staying for 10 days. That's not acceptable, and the cleaner didn't tell us. And we both knew, like, well, that's property manager's job. That's not the cleaner's job to supply it. And so there's this bridge, there's this gap, there's this missing piece that is all the extra stuff. And that's a perception that a lot of people don't understand until they get into it. And so I'd like to talk about how you guys bridge that gap and how you take care of all the other stuff. Because it's not just, hey, I need a cleaner and someone to fix a light bulb when it goes out. There's so many other pieces to setting up a property in between guests. And so would you dive into that for us?
Absolutely. So you said it well. You can't just rely on these individuals for everything. But first I'll give you what Well and Good does, and then I'll say Well and Good's not available in every area. So there are, if Well and Good's in your area or somebody like us, there's an obvious you should use that service, because we are of course overseeing all the products, and the product coordination is a job in and of itself. And like, who is responsible for making sure that the soaps or the trash bags and all these things are there is an aspect, and Well and Good coordinates that. We supply those products. We're actually sourcing them and finding good sourcing, and that's the other thing is, when you rely on someone else to put that out there, you have to make sure it's at the hospitality level that you're supplying, right? You can't have one ply toilet paper in a really nice house just because that was the cheapest option that the cleaning professional grabbed at the dollar store because it's their job to do it. And so the way that I would say that everyone should set it up, whether you use well and good or not, is you should divide your compensation per turnover based off of 3 key areas. The first is, yes, there should be a cleaning professional that is compensated for each time, no matter what. Then there should be a separate compensation for the laundering of the product, of the laundering of the linens, regardless. So now, of course, that makes sense if you're taking the linens off site and you're laundering somewhere else, like a third party. They're going to charge you for that. We know that. But a lot of your listeners may very well have their cleaning professionals be doing the laundry in the property. If you are doing that, that's not saying that that in of itself is the cardinal sin. What I think the cardinal sin is lumping that into the cleaning job, right? So the way that I would look at it is, you have a cleaning professional who is doing both. You tell them, okay, I'm going to compensate you $175 for the cleaning, and then it's going to be $30 for that laundering. And in that sense, you can now have documentation, process, all of those things can happen for laundering. If it's just lumped in, they're going to do it on a quick wash, they're going to do it as fast as they want. There's no requirements on how it needs to be done because there's no compensation for it. So,
or they're not even going to do it at all, and they're
that's
going
right.
to
That's
make
right.
the bed and they're going to move on. I've seen it firsthand. We saw the other day, the cleaner showed up and was only there for an hour and a half. And we went like, you can't even do the laundry in an hour and a half. That's physically impossible that they did all this laundry. We know that they did it.
So itemizing these things, regardless of how you do it, it should be itemized. And so if it's done in the home, that doesn't mean you can't itemize those 2 things and require maybe a set of photos and require certain things in order to be paid for the laundry portion. You have to do this specific process. And that's the same with restocking. So restocking should be, where's the sourcing coming from? Who's being compensated for the sourcing of that product? And then also who's being compensated for the placement. So it's like there's a provide and there's a placement. Well and Good both provides and places these in the home. But no matter what the operator has, the mistake is just saying, I'm going to pay a cleaning team $200 and they're just going to take care of everything, right? That is the wrong way to do it. You can set up these things, even if you are reliant on that one cleaner and that one handyman. How you set it up on a per turn basis, delineating those tasks and making a actual compensation number attached to each one of those tasks can give you some level of consistency, even if you don't have a well and good. Now, we're available in many locations that people would probably have homes. Yes, utilize a full-scale service. It's going to take so much headache off of you of having to source these things and deal with the coordination of it. But even no matter what, you should always be delineating those tasks.
I love that. Guys, if you're listening, rewind and listen to the last 3 minutes again. I'll need to do the same thing because I've never even thought about that. And I would say we've made the cardinal sin plenty of times ourselves, and we just lump everything together. And it's slop in, slop out. We give a crappy list of stuff to do, we don't hold them accountable, and then we get results and we're disappointed. And the fact and the reality is it's our fault, not their fault. If we would have given them, like you said, a clear delineated pathway, if we would have set up different milestones, different payments for different tasks, then we would obviously get a way better result.
And one more plug for the delineation quickly, if I could, would be that when you are outlining, let's just say, the cleaning difference between the laundering and you're separating those things, that allows you for that day, maybe when well and good is available in your area, the structure is already there. You're already paying for the cleaning, you're already paying for offsite laundering, you're already paying for these things in a line item. So it allows you to then there may be a day where the cleaning professional says, hey, let's actually bring in a laundering service and I'm not going to do this anymore. Well, no worries. Now you're just getting paid for the compensation of the clean itself, and you've already delineated those services. And so it's not only good for the moment, but as you develop your operations, it's going to allow you to make good decisions no matter which way you go.
I love it, man. We'll dive into exactly what you guys do at Well and Good Markets in just a minute, but I do want to ask about the time window. Because in my opinion, that's what's so unique about the short-term rental space, really the hospitality space in general, but the short-term rental space is a whole house. And so I've got someone checking out at 10, and I've got someone else checking in at 4, and we know the reality of almost every single guest. Every single guest wants to check out late, and every single guest wants to check in early. And it simply makes sense. We do the same thing. We show up to a vacation, and we're 2 hours early, and what do we want to do? Sit around, twiddle our thumbs at the coffee shop? No, we want to find out if our house is ready, and so we can plug in. And so that's already such a small time window, already condensed by the guests trying to check out late or check in early. And so how have you guys kind of mastered that very short check-in, check-out window? And you're doing it at scale, but even just on one individual house, how have you guys mastered that?
undoubtedly taking the laundry out of the equation is your biggest unlock to it. And so just the simple nature of not relying on anything happening in the home beyond the clean. So we have our laundry is picked up in our facility from our teams. They are going to the home completely ready to just take the dirty linens out, bring the clean linens in. It's two complete different sets. There's your time. I mean, like, there's your weight. There's all those different things that, the reasons why we're not able to let people early in on the check-in is because the towels are still drying in the dryer. And, like, we know that world, right? So it starts there. That is, like, the big rock that you have to do first and foremost. But even you go beyond that and start to talk about the inventory closet management. So if there's 1,000 properties in that area, that means there's 1,000 inventory closets that need to be managed. That is silly, right? That is a nightmare of inefficiency. And we know what they look like. On day one, they look great. On the second month, it looks like Costco threw up in your closet and it's just all disorganized. And we're wasting time by doing that. So I really recommend have your teams bring all of that stuff from the outside, not reliant on anything inside of the home. Anything that you're relying on inside of the home is going to make extra time, extra management. You've got to organize that. You've got to restock it each time. Bring the products each time into the home. And we do also have a flow that we really recommend our teams go about the process. Some of the things are doing the walkthrough prior is a time. A lot of people, when they get into the house, they start cleaning right away. They're just like getting into it because they want to get started. Doing that actual walkthrough of the entire home, we require documentation of the before condition of the home regardless. So they're taking photos of everything, of what it looked like when the guest departed. It allows you to not have that like bomb that's waiting for you in the other room where there's a bunch of throw up or something like that's in a room that you didn't even get to until the very end, and all of a sudden now you've got a major problem that's causing delays. I am so big a proponent of like do the true walkthrough where that 5 minutes may cost you. It saves you so much in not having any surprises that are hanging out in the home that you might not expect it until the end. And so those are some things that I think are practical items that people can do is like get the products out, bring in your fresh products each time, but then make sure that you're doing a comprehensive walkthrough as the team and require that as an operator, require before photos. That'll ensure that there's a walkthrough that happens to avoid any surprises.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice. Super tangible and things that people can implement right away. You talked about the cleaning closet, but we also didn't talk about just like the stuff that goes missing, right? Like if you're not tracking that and if you don't have a system, I like the entire concept of showing up with all the stuff. We have all the clean linens and towels. We're ready to make the beds. All we have to do is strip, take away. We have the extra toilet paper that needs to go out. We have the extra dish soap. We have the extra pods, all that kind of stuff. Versus, like you said, you get into the cleaner's closet and you're like, oh, we're out of pods. Somebody's got to run to the store and get pods. Oh, we don't have a king sheet for this sheet. Where did it go? That happens almost every single time. And it gets we always talk about this in business where if we have a crack in our system, it's really not that big of a deal if we're working with 10 clients. But as soon as we go to work with 50, now that crack becomes a problem for 2 or 3 clients. And then if we work for 500, it becomes a problem for 20 or 30 clients. And so I would imagine that process system, how you guys operate, allows you to scale, which allows you to do a lot more properties in any given day. But how do you think about the busy season? So you've got your system, you've got your process, you guys know exactly how to clean the house the right way, but then inevitably you end up in spring break. We were talking about it before we started recording. You end up in spring break and it's like, on a normal day we were cleaning 5 houses, today we're cleaning 20 houses. Like, how do you guys even bridge that with the crazy seasonality we get in the vacation rental industry?
Yeah, just like if you have bad systems, those cracks start to become bigger and start to become more noticeable, and they really fall apart when it's busy season. Just like that, if you have strong systems, they are shown so much more evidently during the busiest of times. And I'll always talk about our core values of Well and Good. One of our values is we flex. And so we talk about how we love to flex, to show off what we have been prepared for all along. And those busy seasons are a party in our world of Well and Good. It's like, let's go. And we do, of course, flex by adding more teammates and all that. But it's like, this is our chance to show off. Like, this is our chance to say, we let early check-ins happen during the busy season. Do you? And we get a chance to be, it's our most boastful time. It's our most prideful. We just dominate this. Now, it's not easy. No one would ever say that it's easy, but it's like there is an inevitable dread that comes most of the time of busy season that really should be reversed. And we've felt this now. I mean, you look at like the Scottsdale where we originated, we have 400 homes that we service, and during spring, March, spring trainings happening and all that stuff. Walk into a Well and Good facility during that time, you're going to sense this feeling of like, oh man, this is where the action is happening. People are moving fast. People are like, let's go. The music is thumping. Everything that you'd expect for what you'd be like, oh, this is high level. This is the playoffs, right? Like you can use sports analogy. It's like, yeah, this is the time where we show our stuff. So I don't know if there's any secret sauce to it besides the fact that if you have cracks in your system, they'll be shown much more during your busy season. If you have a structurally sound system, that will also be really flexed during that busy season. And it can just be an awesome time where you're like, take the extra booking, take the extra properties. Now, one thing we do say, we typically cap onboards during our busier season. So we have customers that'll be coming to us and they'll be desperate because their cleaning team has been letting them down during the busy season. And it's the middle of it. And we say, no, we have an obligation. We are fully committed to our current customers during the busy season. And there's been multiple times where we've had to just cap an area and say, right now we've got the team for our customers as of now. We'll see you all in the off season so you never have to go through this again. But like I'm a big believer in not rocking the boat for growth, right? Like it's not worth it to take on the extra properties when your team is fully committed at this point. So it's important for us to make sure we're monitoring that.
I love that, dude. I love that. So let's talk about Well and Good. I know we danced around it a little bit, but let's talk about you guys. You guys started in Scottsdale. You've got over 400 properties in Scottsdale, which is just crazy. Most people would get to 400 properties and then be like, all right, that's enough. Not Jonathan Wicks. He's like, all right, let's go get 17 more locations. And so let's talk about just like, if you want to just touch on the core business and then talk about the growth strategy and what you guys have been up to.
Yeah, so we obviously have people that ask us, can you bring Well and Good to this area? We need your service. We need this type of thing. And so we, in 2022, began our expansion of locations that were outside of the Phoenix Scottsdale area, and that's been great. So we modeled it very similarly, especially in those early years of 22, 23, and 24. We modeled it strictly after what it was happening with a physical location where we actually have a hub in each one of these areas, and they span from California, Idaho, Colorado, Texas, Missouri, Chicago area, Florida. We are coast to coast. We have a unique set of locations, and we kind of did that on purpose. We wanted to be able to see if Well and Good would be a value in smaller markets as well as larger markets, in mountain places like Denver as well as beach places like Palm Beach. And so we've seen that kind of happen now over the last few years. We have locations across the country, and yeah, it happens by people coming to us and saying we need your service, and we certainly want to continue to add to the industry. We are not just here so that Well and Good as a company can make our own impact. We want to impact the industry. We want to be able to have it be where there are standards that are set by a company who's obsessing over it, and whether it's our name or not, we really just want to make sure that somebody is obsessing over that service. And so yeah, the growth has been natural from that perspective. Where we go next is we are also working with some operators who are really strong cleaning teams in certain areas that are actually licensing the Well and Good process. And so a cleaning professional that maybe is a really strong cleaning team that you all might work with, even that we don't have a corporate location, can still take advantage of our checklist process and our hiring processes and some of the things that we do with product management that allows them to be that outcome that we get. And so we're trying to make sure that Well and Good is more available in areas that we may not have a corporate location, but that's a bit of our growth side.
Is it primarily been property manager focused, your guys' growth and onboarding, or has there been a lot of individual investors? What's really been the ideal client for you guys?
Undoubtedly, we've serviced both. We service from the largest PMs, property managers in the industry, all the way down to the individual owners who just is their very first rental property and they're self-managing. We found that undoubtedly, yes, we service a lot of folks who are what you mentioned, the brain surgeon who has W-2 and wants to take advantage of the tax benefits of this, doesn't mind the hosting part. They use companies like yours to set up the property, and they use companies like ours to service them. And so folks that understand the benefit of partnerships and like they really want to see win-wins. We talk about the and sign all the time. That's on purpose, right? So it's like we will work with anybody who is saying I want there to be shared wins. And our percentage is almost right down the middle of property managed homes versus individually managed homes. And so it's really a mix of both.
Have you guys found a sweet spot, like at properties that you really enjoy doing? Is it the mega properties with 10 plus bedrooms, Or is it the condos? I'm sure you do a little bit of everything. What's been the best type of property for you guys at Well and Good?
First, we score every home from the servicer's perspective. So we have what's called a servicer score, and that rates the home because not every 3-bedroom, 2-bath home are created equal. And so we look at them from the perspective of the access, the surfaces, and the layout. So we score each of those categories, and that tells us our servicer score. So to lay out what our ideal home is, it's a home that's easy for us to access, right? It has a smart lock, it has maybe a driveway you can pull into versus like 10 different codes you got to get into, and all that access can be difficult sometimes. The surfaces are congruent and they're simple, right? So there are some homes that like the flooring surface is 3 different types of surfaces in one room, or there's all kinds of throw rugs, and there's the surfaces just become challenging, very unique surfaces in some cases. Our preference is simple, smooth. Just think of like a hotel does it. They make it so that you can service them easily. Same thing with the layout. The layout is furnishings, and I love themed houses. I think that smart design is one of the biggest unlocks you can do. You know this world as much as anybody. It's like if you're setting up your home, do it with intention. But when you're doing that, think about the servicing aspects of what's going to happen here. How is this going to play out long term? And so we score these items, and then that allows us to give a servicer score. That's how we price a lot of our homes, is that if you have a high servicer score, we're going to love servicing it. We're going to have no problem finding a cleaning team. If you've got a home that's got a bad layout, it's got crazy surfaces, and it's hard for us to access, that's going to be harder. So I wouldn't put a category necessarily. I would just more say how the home is set up. That's what we prefer.
I love that. We've done our fair share of built-in bunk beds where we always joke. And we tell the owner, we're like, just so you know, this is going to be really cool. It's going to photograph really well. Guests are going to love it. Your cleaner is going to hate it, and they're going to charge you more to change these beds because
on our servicer score, on the layout portion of the home, bunk beds is absolutely a category. And if the home has bunk beds, it's a lower score on that. There's just no way around it. It sucks to make those. It's hard to do. It takes a lot of energy from the team. And so, yes, I think that all that should be factored in when folks are considering. It's not saying don't do it. Like you said, like there's benefits to it, but then there's also, just like anything, there's something that you're going to have to do on the other side of it.
For sure. How do you guys dive into some of the other maintenance items, right? This has been a hot topic for us lately is, like, I know you guys aren't doing landscaping, but people got to have a landscaper. They've got a hot tub that needs to be serviced in between guests. They've got a pool that needs to be cleaned. They've got some unique amenity or something that's different. A barrel sauna that had sweaty, gross, naked people in that needs to be sanitized and cleaned down before the next person comes in. Like, that's a reality in the world that we live in, and really with the way short-term rentals are going. How do you guys think about that logistically? Does that go into your score of all the extra stuff that needs to happen? Do you guys do that? Do you outsource it?
We do all of the surfaces. So you mentioned like the sauna, that would fall within our purview of cleaning that. And if that requires a specific process, then we will factor that potentially into the cost of the service. But the thing that we do mostly when it comes to repairs and those kind of ancillary items is that Well and Good wants to be your boots on the ground, eyes and ears, truly giving you insights into what does the pool look like. We are not the pool servicing company, but we should be letting you know ultimately anything that has to do with guest readiness. And that guest readiness is our ultimate barometer. Is this home right now ready for a guest? Now, the things that we find that are maybe not like that maybe something's not right, the hot tub is really cloudy, or there's something's wrong with the landscaping. Those are the times where we want to spring into action, both in saying sometimes we can make some fixes to things. We skim a lot of pools because it's like, hey, a storm came through. Well and Good can skim the pool, right? We are capable of that on a task-based item. But we also want to give you insights into maybe patterns of like, hey, this pool is continually not looking right. You need to make sure that the vendor that is doing your pools is meeting the standards that are required. And so, yeah, most of it comes down to is like, if you think of Well and Good as they are the ones who care deeply about the overall guest readiness, they're either going to do what needs to be done, or they're going to tell me what needs to happen in order to make sure that the guest readiness is actually happening. And we are obsessive over that side of it. Like, we have our last question that our teammates fill out at the end of each one of our work orders is on guest readiness. It says, I certify, and they write their name next to it, and they say, this home is guest ready from all the best of my knowledge, every aspect. And that's not just clean. That means like the batteries are working for the front door, and that means that like the light bulbs are functioning, like everything there is happening. And if they can't say yes to that, if they can't sign their name to that, they say no, and they say why, right? And so it's like, hey, I'm seeing a problem. This needs to be solved before a guest can have a good experience here. And so training our teams to look at overall guest readiness has helped us become that that group that an operator can lean on the ground to like really look at the comprehensive property.
I love that. I think that the perception is that when the cleaner's done, the house is guest ready. So I love that your team is willing to say, no, it's not guest ready. Like you said, the little things. The Schlage smart lock on the front door is at 5% battery and it's beeping red. It's like, dude, somebody's got to get new batteries in this. And so just because the house is clean and the beds are made does not mean that it's guest ready.
Well said. Yep. And we want to help, so oftentimes, like if the batteries need to be replaced, it's like, okay, are there batteries that we can swap, or do you want us to go get those batteries? Like there's usually things that we can do to help guide to guest readiness that are not part of our regular service, but are important. And so we have folks that are, capable in many things. And in some areas like Scottsdale, we have full repair teams. And so there are places where we do a lot more of the full-on repairs, but we're at least going to be coordinating what needs to be done and whether we can do it.
Yeah, so logistically, obviously you guys started in Scottsdale where you're in a metropolitan area and you have a lot of resources and you can get pretty much everywhere. Everyone's got a parking lot. The roads don't have snow on them. As you started to move into other markets, how did you approach and how did you guys handle stuff like I'm in Blue Ridge and there's a snowstorm last night and the guest checked out and I can't even get up this driveway. And a lot of people listening are wondering the same thing. They're like, when everything's good and easy, it's no problem. But we know that there's going to be a snowstorm. We know that a road's going to go bad. We know that power is going to go out. We know that stuff's going to happen. We know this property's 45 minutes from the nearest metropolitan area down a back road. Like, how do you guys handle that? And how should people approach that if they're buying a property like that and they're going to set it up as a short-term rental? What are the things you've seen that they need to be prepared for?
Oh, this is tough. I think if I was to first give a bit of a broad philosophical approach is we've definitely felt a need for us. We had to learn this initially, which is we need to listen to our boots on the ground. Like we were in Colorado and we started expanding up into the mountain areas, and when people tell us that something's not passable, what are we supposed to say? No, do it. Put yourself at risk. And I think that it was a lesson for us to learn that there are more important things than getting this house ready. And if the cleaning team can't get there, how are we expecting the guests to get there? And so we've definitely taken a bit less militant approach maybe than we did initially of like, we will get this home guest ready by the time it's 4 p.m. Sometimes you just can't, and you're just like, listen, this is the reality. And so I would challenge everybody, truly, first, work with professionals who care, like who deeply are feeling like we want to get this home guest ready. It's the same way whenever somebody, let's say they call off work, right? I can tell when an employee is calling off work because they didn't want to work today, right? And they're like, listen, I'm not able to come in today. You're going to have to find a replacement. Versus people that are like, hey, I'm sick. Now, here's the thing. I could work from home or I could do this, but I'm just telling you right now, I'm not able to be 100%. That tells me that teammate cares, right? And so if I have that same feeling with my ground operations people who are saying like, listen, I want to get this home guest ready. I want to get to that place, but the snowstorm is happening. My best guess is going to be that it's going to be 7 o'clock before the roads are cleared, and that's past the point. I know that's not ideal, but that is the situation. I'm now like, that's the way to call off, right? That's the way to be open and transparent, and that transparency can go to your guest. And I wish I could give like no, we fly helicopters in and we find a way to make it happen every time, but no, you don't. Like, you deal with things. And I love working with professionals who care, because we're coming at it from listening to our ground operators, and they're saying like, we know the importance of this. At the same time, there are some barriers to this. And another example, your cleaning team is not your snow removal team, right? You need to have a snow removal team. So like, great example of like, make sure everybody is aware of their tasks and is aware of what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. And we've had too many people be like, oh, well, can you just shovel that driveway real quick? And we're like, what are you saying? Like, we are here to complete a totally different task. And so, yeah, I'm always going to lean towards focused, everybody knowing their responsibility, and then honest communication when things are just not possible.
I love it, man. I love it. We could make this a 2-hour podcast episode. I want to be respectful of your time. I appreciate you coming on with us. I got a couple last fun, quick questions, okay? Number 1, what's the craziest thing that you guys have found left behind at a property? Could be an animal, could be someone's kid, could be a gun. I know you've got some crazy ones, but what are some of the crazier ones?
Without question, it was $10,000 cash between a mattress, and it was the wildest story as to what was going on there. Like just in that the benefit of that, like our cleaning team was so good about making sure it got to the right people, but the coordination of it. We don't know what that $10,000 was for, but we're pretty sure it was for something really shady, because when we tried to get it back to the people, no one wanted to really claim it. Like, it was like very much like, I don't know what you're talking about. And we're like, no, there's actually $10,000 worth of cash. Like, we're looking at this. This is not fake. Who are we giving it to? But nobody really wanted to claim it. So yeah, we ended up getting it to the right people, we think. But there was something madness there. We do absolutely see all the stuff. You could talk for days about the things that people leave in the homes that are like just their own stuff. You're like, how are you leaving this there? But I think that one was the most. It was just a wild story.
Yeah, that's insane, man. We've obviously got our fair share of guns and stuff like that. We've walked into someone sleeping in the bedroom that wasn't on the guest list that had no idea where they were. They're like, I don't know, I was partying last night and ended up at this house, and where's everybody at? I'm like, dude, you got to get out of here, bro.
Oh boy, yeah. Everybody checked out except for the guy who's not even on the itinerary. Yeah,
exactly. I would imagine that with as many properties as you guys do, there's some pretty crazy, wild stories, and I'm sure that you've got like a Slack channel or something that's just for fun, and people are putting in what the craziest things they found.
Probably one of the craziest things that ever happened to us. We had a truck, and this truck was used by our inspectors, and it was parked at our facility, and it was Nissan Frontier, simple. Well, we go to do our work one day, and the seats are gone. Somebody had stolen the seats of our Nissan Frontier, and we're just like, what do you do with this situation? So we had to like put a folding chair in the driver's seat so you could actually drive it. Because like, it was just the weirdest scenario. But we have, yes, every year we get together as a team, like for our anniversary event, and we talk about some of the craziest things we've seen, and it's a wild industry. People that want variance in their life come and work with Well and Good or with anybody in the vacation rental space, because it's never the same each day.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm gonna get your list of markets you guys work in. We're gonna drop those in the show notes. So if somebody's got a property in those markets, they can reach out to you guys. We'll do your website. I'll put all your socials in there as well, Jonathan. Thank you for coming on, man. This was super insightful. I think this is a really great episode for people to re-listen to. There's some real tangible things here that you need to implement right away, whether you have a service like Jonathan's company handle your properties, whether you're doing it yourself, whatever it is. There's some really important pieces and some takeaways, some things that I've learned even after being a property owner and a host for a couple of years. So I love it, man. Let's run it back. I would love to do another episode, end of the year or something. Let's talk about end of the year, another episode with you guys. Jonathan, thanks for coming on, man. Let's say goodbye to everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you as well, Mark. Love the podcast. Really enjoyed it.
Guys, make sure to tune in on next Monday for a Monday market report, and make sure to tune in next Friday for another guest speaker. Connect with Jonathan on his socials. Follow the guy. He's pretty cool to watch. Drop some knowledge online all the time, and we appreciate you guys tuning into the STR Investing Podcast.